Perfect. So good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are having an awesome day so far.
Good morning. We've already cranked out all kinds of stuff this morning.
Right. We've been very productive with our time.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. So as promised today, we are going to talk about this big question that I know I've gotten over the last couple of decades, and more times than I can count, probably thousands, is either when should I quit my job, or people ask me, when did I quit my job, or some form of that, or like, how long does it take before you can quit your job?
Right.
Well, I mean, the answer is it's different for everyone, right? So we can't really give you that. But I think Christina and I both have stories of how not to do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I'll go first. So first, we're going to just tell you our stories so that you understand that we didn't do it really the right way. And did it work out for us? Sure. But I wouldn't recommend it. So I hate doing these type of things where it's like, do as I say, not as I do. But I want to try to pass along, like, you know, your kids, right? You're like, let me tell you something that happened to me, and you're hoping that they can learn a little bit of a lesson from you. Right. But you might have to learn the hard way too. I don't know. But so for those of you who don't know, I'm 48. I started seriously in this business when I was 26. I got to full-time income by the time I was 28. I quit my job before that money was there. Okay. So what did that mean for me? All right. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand working for other people. So what happened for me was, because I was young, I had 2 young girls. I was in a situation where I quit school at the time. I was going to school for electrical engineering at Milwaukee School of Engineering, and I was working, and I stopped doing all of it, and I stopped too early. So what that meant for me was I couldn't just live on my own. So I ended up having roommates and things like that to try to make ends meet. And I was really, really scraping for a while, which caused a lot of stress. Okay.
Right.
And you already have a lot of stress. You don't want to. So part of it was a motivator. So I'm not going to say that it was all negative. It was positive in the fact that I had to hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of shows ago, I talked about how I had to kick this guy out, right? Yeah. And if you're listening, RA, you know I love you and I don't hate you or anything like that. Okay, so good guy, but wasn't working out and we need to split. Okay, so let me just say this. That did motivate me because I needed to make it happen. So sometimes, you know, you can put yourself in a position where if you don't need something, the money that bad, it can cause you to procrastinate. So that definitely was a motivator, but it also caused a lot of stress. And because of that, I also, after I went full-time at 28, where I was earning full-time income, there were times where I had dips. The lowest dip that I got to at one point was $2,000 a month. And I don't know, I have like itchy nose today. That is not enough for me to live on anyway, with my kids. So what that did was it caused me to, number one, get roommates again, because then I could live off of that. Okay. But remember, we're in charge of our own tax, taking our own taxes out, our FICA out, health insurance, things like that. And then it also, I had to humble myself and I would take some side jobs. So it wasn't until I think I was about 30-ish, low 30s. My ex used to say, if you're under 35, you can say you're 32 or 33, but when you're over 35, you just say you're 30-ish. Okay. But anyway, in my early 30s, I had took some jobs. I worked for my dad for a little while. He's an entrepreneur. He has his own businesses. I took some temp service jobs, but they didn't last long because they did motivate me then to like, oh, I hate this, right? You know, like if my dad was great, he paid well, and he's my dad and I love him and he's a great boss as well. I didn't want to work for him forever. So it did motivate me to get going. So my advice, you know, we'll give you some advice as far as what we've watched other people do that is really the right way to decide when you want to quit your job. But also, if you find yourself in a position where you have walked away from your job, but you have some type of dip of income, it's okay to take an extra little side hustle, another little side hustle, just as a stepping stone or to get past that hurdle. So I would take something for 60 days and then I would catch up and then that would be the end of it. But that probably since I was like 32 or something like that. I don't think I've like worked for anyone else since then. So however long that is, 16 years, 18 years, whatever. But I also have a personality that most of you probably don't have. I would rather live in my car and not work for someone else if I had to. That's just me. Like, that's how much I cannot stand working for someone else, punching clock when they say you got to punch in, you got to punch out. This is when you can take a bathroom break. This is when you're allowed to go on vacation. Like, I would rather just literally just live in my big old Pacifica and drive around and do stuff that way. And so most of you probably don't feel that way. So remember that. Don't quit your job too soon. And I know Christina has a different story, but she also probably feels like she did it the wrong way.
I did. The one thing that I can say that I see between the two of us that is our motivator is the fact that we're moms. Mm-hmm. So our hustle is a little bit different. So our situations are definitely extremes. I left my job in 2019. And I was 35 when I left. And I decided that I would rather fail at whatever else I was about to do than to continue to succeed at where I was at, because it was literally killing me. Like, where I was at was affecting my health to a point where, like, I was on antidepressants and everything, the whole nine, like seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist, right? So my motivation was a little bit different. Like she said, she'd rather live in her car. I'd rather fail at doing everything than go back and do that again. And I was extremely good at it, right? But with me, when I left, I had my previous job had me living off of about $26,000. Okay. I had that amount in my 401k and I cashed all of it out. And I left my job. I paid all of my bills for a year. And I said, I'm going to put my head down and I'm gonna make this 12 months working like 10. Right. So inside of what we do, you guys know we are traders. So during that 12-month period that I was trying to condense to 10 months, I kind of had to put my head down. Everything that I could think to do, I was doing. So we talked about the paper book reads. I was still selling those to the place that I left, right? Because that's where my biggest clientele base has always been, is work. I was focused in on trading like a mad woman, and not trading one thing, trading multiple things with discipline and proper risk management, of course. But that was only after my second year of learning to trade. I'm sorry, after my first year of learning to trade. So my first year of leaving my job was my first full year of now implementing everything that I had learned the first year. So it was definitely scary, because we as traders have a thing where you are not supposed to trade when you need to. Mm-hmm. You are supposed to trade when you want to. And I was not doing that. I was trading because bills needed to be paid. They were paid. I paid them for you. Like my apartment complex looked at me crazy when I paid them for a year. I'm like, I'm paying you for the full term of my lease. All in one, not with, and you're supposed to do it with a escrow account and all of that. I didn't. I handed them a cashier's check. Like, don't bother me for 12 months. But inside of that, just trying different things, trying to market the businesses that I was in and failing at that, and still like needing to not sit in front of the computer all day because I'm still a mom. I still need to hang out and do stuff with my son and my family and get away from the computer so I don't go crazy. But I definitely would say what we're doing now in branching off to having multiple streams of income is definitely the way that I would have went had I understood that it was a path that I could go down. Because what I did was extremely risky. It was extremely risky. But like I said, us as moms, our motivation is usually a little bit different because we got a whole other person to look after. And you had two people, right? You had your two daughters at the time, right?
Yep.
So for us, our motivation is a little bit different, but that's what I did. I saved 1 year of my previous job salary, not my current. Like, I took a 50% pay cut to leave my job to pay myself for a year, right? and then left. Like I cut all household expenses. We cut off everything. Like when I tell you the only thing that we had in this house is the internet and Netflix. That was it. Like cell phone cut down to bare minimum. That was it. Like I even part of last year still got rid of my car note to keep bills and everything low, still making changes. And not in a bad position right now, like still profitable and things like that. But just doing it that way is extremely risky because there's so many unknowns. You don't know if you're going to be successful because you haven't done the thing that you said you wanted to do long enough to test it out and have income coming in. So I left the job with no income coming in, hoping that I could get it coming in within 10 months, but I had 12 months to do it. So I don't recommend doing that at all because it was way more stressful than it should have been had I had additional streams coming in while I was walking out the door.
So now we told you a couple ways not to do it.
Don't do it. Listen, trust. You don't have to learn the lessons the hard way. You can learn vicariously through our mistakes, okay?
Yeah, so, and over the years, I've watched other entrepreneurs do things similar. I mean, they have their own stories or whatever. And a lot of times what happens with true entrepreneurs is they're like Christina and I. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like a job is not an option. It's just not. But for most people, right, for whatever reason that maybe you love your job and you're not even trying to leave your job. I mean, not everybody's trying to leave your job. If you love your job, that's great. And we're not here to knock on jobs because that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't talk about pet peeves a lot, but in our home-based business industry, talking down on jobs gets on my nerves a little bit because how do you think the society is going to run? If people don't have employment, do you want a surgeon operating on you who hasn't been doing it, or how are you going to have surgery if there's no surgeons because they're all entrepreneurs?
Exactly.
Right? We need doctors and lawyers and nurses and painters and plumbers, and those are all people who contribute to society. So our issue isn't when you have a job, it's when you only have a job. You don't have other sources of income. For us, a job isn't an option, but it doesn't mean that we're knocking jobs. So I always want to make that clear.
Right.
I'm trying to not green screen my thing out of the thing, whatever. Okay, so, but I've watched a lot of people do it the right way. If you're familiar with Lawrence Tam at all, he stayed at his job for a long time. He's an engineer for a long time after he was a 6 and 7 figure earner. Wow. Still stayed, right? So a couple of different, ways for you to plan it out. And it's not going to be like, you're like, not going to be super happy when we say this, but this is really how you want to do it.
Yep.
Is the first thing you can do is first you got to calculate how much money you actually need to make in order to quit your job. And you have to figure other things in. So you also are going to need to make sure that you have enough to cover like your FICA and your health insurances. Now, you don't want to go on government assistance and stuff like that either. Like now you're just relying on another source.
Exactly.
That can just take it away from you and also controls your activities. Okay.
Yep.
So you want to figure out, okay, my insurance has been covered by mostly from my employer. A lot of people don't realize, how much money their employer is forking out for them. They just look at their wage. Don't think about the other 50% of the Social Security tax they're paying in, the unemployment insurance, the workman's comp insurance, and the health insurance part of the premium they're paying. And so you need to think about like, what is it that you need to cover your expenses, including that you're now paying in all of your Social Security tax yourself. Your employer's no longer managing that. What is your health insurance going to be for you and your family? Sometimes maybe your spouse is still working and they get the health insurance. So, your situation is an individualized situation. And then we really want to see you double it. And then you can quit your job.
Right.
You've got at least double coming in. That is really the way to do it. And the other way is to take, and I'll let Christina talk about it, a little bit of what she did, but saving instead. Not taking it out of your retirement.
Right. You do definitely want to save up, right? Like she said, enough money for you to be able to live, and I'm not going to say comfortably, but at least pay all of your major bills and make sure that you have money put aside for emergencies. You have that 12 months put together that covers if you're a homeowner, your mortgage, your taxes, right? Your insurance. You have things like your car notes, right? Everything covered. And like she said previously, you need to take into consideration any healthcare expenses, taxes, and things like that. You need to have 12 months of that money saved before you leave, like saved, not just put aside for you to be able to say, I have this coming in, but you need to have that double coming in plus money saved just in case. That's like the ultimate rainy day fund. Because at the end of the day, there's so many unknowns that happen, right? And you can't always attribute to those, but if you have the money set aside, it certainly helps. And you can always think through situations easier when you are less stressed. Okay.
And if you're a 2-income household, like I am now a 2-income household, I wasn't when my kids were younger. I was a single mom, but I got remarried. Our anniversary is coming up on the 14th of this month.
Okay.
Yep. So I got remarried 12 years ago. We're a 2-income household now, and we've had different scenarios. My husband's worked from home. He's worked outside of the home, worked from home again, back and forth. Right now, the last, I'd say 24 months or so, 36 months, whatever, we've been very focused on investing in cryptocurrency markets. So the last thing we wanted to do was eliminate an income source because we are using a big chunk of his 6-figure check to put into our crypto investments. We don't need him to do that. Okay. But it's silly right now to take away a source of income when it's prime time for investing in cryptocurrency.
Yep.
So there are other things to think about. And he is this great stay-at-home person. So we're looking forward to having him stay at home again. He's much better at taking care of the household than I am. That's just the way it is in our house. But right now, every 2 weeks we're putting more money into our investment portfolio. We're not getting any younger, and we didn't do a good job. We did not do a good job of putting money away for retirement. I just made a lot of money over the years and spent it. So that's really changed for the last few years for us as we've gotten way smarter about what we're doing. So there's a lot to take into consideration. If you think of your job, if you hate your job, okay, let's just talk about if you really are trying to quit your job, or you hate it, or you don't feel like you have enough time, maybe you love it, but you don't have enough time with your family, whatever. Think of it as a tool to get you to your goals.
Right.
Instead of thinking about how much you hate it, think of how great of a resource it is for you right now, because you got to pay the bills while you're working towards your dreams and goals. So your job isn't a bad thing. It's an income source right now. I know so many people who are actually fairly wealthy who are still working their jobs because they're not done building their wealth. And they use that active income from the 9 to 5 or whatever, those salaries, to fund the other things that they're doing for their long-term gains. So it's just a mindset change. And if you really, 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 really hate it because it's just one of those places that you can't stand to go to for some terrible reason, find another job.
Yeah.
Really, I'm serious. I have talked to so many people well, I'm a certain age, I can't find another job. Yeah, you can.
No, that's exactly what I should have did. I should have taken that pay cut and found somewhere else while I built what I was building. It would have made it less stressful. And I did leave with the room to go back because of how I left.
Yeah.
But I definitely should have just slid into somebody else's doorway. It would have helped.
So just some real talk from a couple of ladies who, it's not all, what are they, sunshine and roses or whatever. Right. Yeah, it's we struggle just like everybody else, and we continue to have our own struggles in different areas, if you will. So it's fine. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. It's okay.
don't be scared of the journey. Be prepared for it. Okay. Like, we're giving you the hints and tips that you need to have those contingency plans. We are sharing the ugly truths with you so that you can, like I said, live vicariously through our mistakes. So you don't have to go through them on your own, but just don't be scared of the journey. Be prepared for it. Be prepared for what could happen. You know how they always say, you hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. That's what we want you to do. Because there's so many opportunities out here for you. And like we said earlier, we're not down on jobs, because there's some people who are very passionate about them, but having multiple sources of income is a good thing, because as we see through the pandemic, a lot of people who were passionate about their jobs actually had to close their doors because the world changed, and the world is always changing. So putting all of your eggs in one basket is not the way to go. Having multiple streams is definitely a good thing to do. Okay.
Yeah. Taking control of your own economy. Forget about what's going on in wherever you're tuning in, your country's economy or the world economy. Just create your own economy. Sometimes it's easier to blame, whatever's going on, right? We can blame politicians, we can blame our upbringing, we can blame whatever. But at the end of the day, especially if you live in a country like the United States, right? In the free world countries, you have control over your situation. You just maybe don't realize it. I did a TikTok yesterday where I was talking about how there's no job security anymore. So it's not that we're knocking on jobs, but be prepared, because you are replaceable. And that's
you're in
just
a
the
different
bottom line.
What state are you in?
Wisconsin.
Is Wisconsin an at-will state? Yeah, Michigan is an at-will state too. So your employer doesn't really have to have a reason to at-will you. So it's the reality of what we're in right now. So having those contingencies is important.
Yeah, businesses have to do what they need to do to stay in business as well.
Yep.
And sometimes they have to make hard choices, and you're the hard choice. You just don't know. And, create your own economy and stay in control of it. And then you won't care. You won't care about like who the president is or any of that stuff anymore, because you've taken control of your situation.
Yep. Like, our team is what are we, cash poor, but crypto rich?
Right.
We invest a lot. Like,
we do.
My son is 14 and he knows like we're on a budget because we are investing. My son invests his money that he gets coming in too. So that's the other caveat to what we do. When we talked about yesterday, reinvesting your money, that's a thing. Putting your money in places where it's going to work for you is going to benefit you in the long run too.
And we could do this on another weekday.
We got some meat coming up for them.
We do. Like Kurt talks about the power of 5. If you can't afford to buy 5, don't buy it.
Don't buy one. Yep.
If that car payment is $400 a month and you can't afford $2,000 a month, that'd be 5 times. Don't buy the car.
Exactly.
This just keeps you honest with yourself.
It keeps you grounded. And when you get to a point where your income is coming in at the rate that you would like it to come in, we know you're going to splurge. We do it.
Yeah, you reward yourself.
Right. It'll be warranted at that point, because now you have everything in place. So a little splurge here and there is not bad. I'm the first person to say, like, I do love to shop. So my son keeps me very grounded.
Good thing for Kevin.
Right.
Thank you, Kevin. That's cool. But
yes. He's really good at and I tell him, so I know myself. So I tell him when we go in the store first, like, Kevin, we are on a budget. Keep me on a budget. And he does a really good job at it's funny because he'll take stuff out the basket and hold it up at me like, so do we need this?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. He's throwing it back in your face. So it's like reminding you.
Right. So is this a need or a want? Because we had so many of those discussions when he was little, just needs versus wants. And that's kind of how you have to look at it when you're going on the entrepreneurial journey. Is in the beginning, do you need to have every subscription known to man because you refuse to pay for cable? but you're essentially paying the same as a cable bill because you have Netflix and HBO and Hulu and everything, right? So do you need it, right? And for me, one of the justifications in my house for getting rid of some of the stuff like that is it's the school year. We don't watch TV during the week anyway.
Right. You don't need all that TV.
We got homework. We got assignments that we do. We got practice and things like that, different activities that we're preparing for. So no,
Yeah,
like my son runs an online store with me. So no, we don't watch TV in the week.
And here's a secret. Your shows will be there next year. Not a secret.
And you can binge watch them.
Right. Later. On the weekend or
That's what
later. You can watch them later. They're not going in. It's not the old days where if you didn't stick the VHS tape in and record it, you were screwed, right?
Right. Now everything is on the internet.
Yeah, everything.
On demand. As long as the show's already aired, you're good to go. You can find it, trust me.
My mentor always calls the TV and the income reducer.
It is. Mm-hmm. I went on, so side note, y'all. I went on a trip this past weekend for the business. And while I was on the trip, it just so happened that I have a scheduled dopamine detox in my planner. And my dopamine detox gets rid of the things that I binge. Typically, I binge watch TV on the weekends and I eat cheesecake. Don't tell Monda. Don't tell
And hot Cheetos.
Yes. But don't tell Monda. So I couldn't have any of those bingey things this weekend. But I don't need them because the reason why I go on a monthly weekend detox is because I need to reground myself because I'll start doing just a little bit more, just one extra episode,
right?
Just one extra bag of chips, just one extra bite of cheesecake. Y'all don't even understand, right? So I do the dopamine detox to kind of keep myself level. And you can do that with anything. If you, whatever your splurge is, right? While you're trying to do this, if it's like one extra hour of a Netflix show, condense it to just being on the weekend and allocate your time that way, right? And then schedule the time that you would typically watch that show during the week to be productive so that when you watch it on the weekend, it's that much more of a reward. And I'll probably share some stuff with everybody about the dopamine detox.
That'd be cool.
It really helps. It really helps. It helps get you grounded, especially when you're going on this entrepreneurial journey and you really need to get your discipline intact. It really helps. It's very hard, but it helps.
I told you we're gonna be real with you guys. Like, I know sometimes you're just like, give me the easy stuff, give me the easy stuff. And it doesn't really totally exist. And there are things that we do that are easy, right. But most of it, what it is it's simple stuff that we do.
It's simple stuff that people don't want to do.
Right. It's simple, but people equate simple to easy. And the easy, it's not easy because it requires that you change something. And instead of thinking about it as change, this is my sister talks about this because she owned a counseling center for years. It's not about change, it's about growth. Nobody likes to change.
Yep.
So think about it as growth instead, just because we're very resistant to changing. So if we can get rid of that, we're changing something and just think about that we're just doing a little growth, it helps the mindset. Because pretty much a lot of what we do is pretty simple. Like what are Christine and I doing right now? We're just talking. We're doing what we would do if we weren't on here talking. We get on, we talk. It's simple stuff, right? Yeah. We actually talk for a shorter period of time by coming on the show.
We're on here.
Yeah. Right. So I appreciate Christina so much. You have no idea. She is so fantastic. And so we're so grateful that we have her in our life. So thank you.
Both of us. That why you think we're the Pip Sisters?
That's right.
We are inseparable.
Just try to come after us, see what happens.
Listen, they don't even understand.
No.
A whole force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
If we did a regular us type podcast, though, please understand, you guys, we would be on for 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We would get work done because we get work done during the conversation, but 4 or 5 hours later. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We can't allow you to listen though, because We talk about all kinds of crazy
The
stuff.
squirrels would just be worse.
Right. Oh my gosh. Squirrel.
Right.
All right, inside joke. Okay. All right, guys. So tomorrow, what are we talking about tomorrow?
I'm nervous. I might fail.
Mm-hmm. I know that you are, if you've not done anything in the entrepreneurial space before, even if you have, that there is a fear of failure. There's also sometimes a fear of success as well. And we might touch on that a little bit, or maybe make that for another day, because I've run into fear of success. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of fear of failure, and it stops people from even starting because they're afraid. Well, what if I try this and it doesn't work out? What if you do? So let's talk about that tomorrow.
Yep. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Aw, well, we're going to wrap up right here, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. We definitely wanted to give you just a few tips about what to do and what not to do as it relates to quitting your job and beginning your entrepreneurial journey. But that is going to wrap us up right here.
Yeah, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.